Level 1. The porter. You're 17. You weigh 54 kilograms. The basket on your back weighs 40. It's strapped across your forehead with a leather band called a NAMLO. And over the next 3 months, it will cut a groove into your skull that will be there for the rest of your life. Every porter has one. It's the first thing you notice when you meet the older men at the trailhead. That groove across the forehead. That's how you know what someone has carried, and for how long. You carry oxygen cylinders, canned food, tents, rope, fuel canisters, and the personal luggage of people who paid $75,000 to stand on top of a mountain. You make $10 a day. That's more than your father makes farming potatoes in Solokhumbu, so you don't complain. You haul loads from Lukla to base camp, 130 kilometers round, trip through river crossings, suspension bridges that sway over 200-meter drops, and trails carved into the side of cliffs, where one wrong step puts you at the bottom of a gorge that nobody is climbing down to recover you from. You do it in flip-flops because boots cost 6 months of wages. Your feet develop calluses so thick you could step on broken glass and feel nothing. That's not toughness. That's just what happens when skin has no other choice. The altitude at base camp is 5,364 meters. The air has half the oxygen of sea level. Your lungs burn for the first week. Then they stop burning and you think you've adapted. You haven't. Your body's just getting better at suffering quietly. The clients ride yaks. They take photos with the yaks. You carry what the yaks won't. If you get injured, nobody is paying for your helicopter. A helicopter evacuation from base. Camp costs $5,000. That's 500 days of your wages. So you don't get injured. You walk on a torn ligament. You carry loads with a cracked rib. You develop a cough that sounds like your lungs are tearing apart, and you keep moving. Because stopping means someone else takes your spot. You sleep in a canvas tent with 9 other porters. The clients sleep in heated dome tents with Wi-Fi. You eat dal bat twice a day. They eat steak flown in from Kathmandu. You are the base of the pyramid. Without you, nothing moves up the mountain. Nobody will remember your name. Level 2. The cook. You're 22. You run the kitchen tent at base camp. You feed 40 people 3 meals a day at 5,364 meters, where water boils at 82 degrees instead of 100. Everything takes longer. Rice takes 45 minutes. Pasta turns to mush. Bread won't rise because yeast doesn't activate the same way at this altitude. You learn to compensate in ways no cooking school teaches because no cooking school operates at this elevation. You cook on kerosene stoves in a tent where the temperature swings from -15 at night to 30 during the day when the sun hits the glacier. Your hands crack from the cold. Your fingertips split open and bleed into the prep work, and you bandage them and keep cooking because there is no replacement arriving tomorrow. You bake birthday cakes for clients who are about to risk their lives. You make coffee at 3 a.m. for summit teams who might not come back. You prepare a breakfast that someone eats before dawn, and by afternoon you hear on the radio that they won't be coming back for dinner. You serve the meal to the remaining team anyway. Nobody mentions the empty seat. You clear the plate. You make $15 a day now. You see everything from the kitchen tent. You see the climbers who are strong and the ones who can barely walk to the dining tent without gasping. They paid $75,000 and they're going up regardless. You don't say anything. That's not your job. Your job is to have hot soup ready when they come back. If they come back. Level 3. The base camp manager. You're 28. You've never been above Camp 2 and you never will. Your world is logistics. You coordinate helicopter deliveries from Kathmandu, manage supply inventories down to the last oxygen cylinder, run the communications tent, and track weather reports from 3 different forecasting services. You manage the toilet tent rotation. You settle disputes between expedition teams over campsite boundaries. You manage a small city of 1,500 people that exists for 2 months every spring on a glacier that's moving 15 centimeters a day. Crevasses open overnight where flat ground was yesterday. You mark them with flags and hope everyone reads the flags. You earn $3,000 for the season. When something goes wrong up high, you're the first person who knows. The radio crackles and a voice gives you coordinates and a description. You write it down in handwriting that stays steady because your handwriting has to stay steady, even when what you're writing is that someone is dead at 7,900 meters and the body can't be recovered. You call the family, you call the embassy, you file the report. There are over 200 bodies still on Everest. Most of them will stay there forever because recovering a body from above 8,000 meters costs between $40,000 and $80,000. Some are frozen into the ice in positions that make extraction physically impossible. Green boots. At 8,500 meters. Sleeping Beauty at 8,600. They've been there for decades. Climbers use them as waypoints. You know their real names. You file the permits, you log the deaths, you pack up camp when it's over. You do it again next year. Level 4, the Climbing Sherpa. You're 25. This is where the dying starts. You're a high-altitude climbing Sherpa, and your job is to make the summit possible for people who could not do it without you. If you're an icefall doctor, you wake up at 1 a.m. every morning to fix the route through the Khumbu icefall, a frozen river of ice between base camp and Camp 1 that moves up to a meter per day. You bolt aluminum ladders across crevasses 45 meters deep and anchor ropes into ice towers the size of apartment buildings that can collapse without warning. Some crossings require 3 ladders lashed together end to end, swaying over a void so deep the bottom disappears into blue darkness. You cross in crampons, metal points on aluminum rungs, with 25 kilograms on your back. You do this in the dark. You do this 30 times per season. In 2014, a serac collapsed in the icefall and killed 16 Sherpas in 90 seconds, the single deadliest day in the mountain's history. They were carrying loads for clients who were still asleep at base camp. The families received $400 each from the government's insurance, $400 for a life. If you're a load-carrying Sherpa, you haul oxygen, tents, and food to camps 1 through 4. You carry 25 kilograms through the death zone above 8,000 meters, where your body is literally consuming itself because there isn't enough oxygen to sustain basic cellular function. Your muscles are breaking down. Your brain is swelling every minute up. There you are, dying slowly. And the only question is whether you get back below that line before the dying becomes permanent. You make $5,000 to $8,000 for the season. You summit Everest 6, 8, 12 times in your career. The record is 30. Every summit shortens your life in ways that medical science is only beginning to understand. Chronic altitude exposure causes brain lesions and long-term pulmonary damage. Nobody talks about that part. There are no long-term health studies on Sherpas because nobody is funding them. You are essential and expendable at the same time. That contradiction has never been resolved. Level 5. The Western Guide. You're 34. You're certified by the AMGA or IFMGA. You've climbed in the Alps, Alaska, Patagonia. You've summited Everest at least twice before they let you guide clients up it. You make $15,000 to $30,000 per season. Your job sounds simple. Get people to the top. The reality is, you spend 2 months managing ego, fear, and human biology at its absolute breaking point. Your client roster includes a 58-year-old real estate developer from Texas who's never been above 14,000 feet, a 45-year-old lawyer from London who trained on a Stairmaster for 6 months and thinks that's enough, a retired surgeon who keeps mentioning his resting heart rate like that matters above 7,000 meters, a 32-year-old tech executive who summited Kilimanjaro and now calls herself an alpinist. Kilimanjaro is a hike. This is not. You smile, you encourage. You teach them to clip into fixed lines, breathe with supplemental oxygen, walk in crampons without tripping. You teach them when to turn around. They never want to turn around. They paid $75,000. Some of them remortgaged their house. Some of them promised their dying father they'd do this. Every client has a story that makes turning around feel like betrayal. Your job is to make them turn around anyway when the mountain says no. If you send someone up who can't make it, they die. If you turn someone around, they sue you or destroy you on social media. You've seen both happen. You carry 2 extra bottles of oxygen that aren't on the manifest. Those are for saving lives that shouldn't need saving. You've carried a client on your back. You've short-roped someone through the balcony at 3 a.m. with a wind chill of minus 60. You've passed bodies frozen into the rock and told your clients not to look. They always look. Level 6, the expedition leader. You're 40. You run the entire operation. 15 climbing Sherpas, 4 Western guides, 80 porters, 3 cooks, 12 clients, and a $900,000 budget. You negotiate permits with the Nepal Ministry of Tourism. You pay the $11,000 per person climbing fee. You hire the helicopters, the insurance, the logistics teams. You coordinate with other expedition leaders to avoid bottlenecks on summit day. You choose the weather windows. A bad call either way kills people. Send them up too early, they hit a storm. Send them up too late, they miss the window and burn through oxygen waiting. Hold them back when the window was real and the whole season is wasted. $900,000 gone. 12 clients who flew halfway around the world for nothing. Your reputation damaged in a community that runs entirely on reputation. You've been doing this for 12 years. You've lost 3 clients. You remember all their names. You remember what they ordered for dinner the night before. You remember the exact moment on the radio when you knew they were in trouble and the exact moment you realized you couldn't do anything about it. Some of the families thanked you afterward. That was worse than the ones who screamed. You charged $75,000 per client. After expenses, permits, salaries, food, equipment, flights, insurance, oxygen, helicopter contracts, you clear maybe $120,000 for the season. You spend the other 10 months planning, marketing, answering emails from people who want to know if they can bring their drone. The mountain doesn't care about your business model. The mountain doesn't care about anything. Level 7, the forecaster. You're 52. You've never set foot on Everest. You sit in a basement office in Chamonix or Boulder or Zurich, staring at weather models on 3 monitors. You are the most important person on the mountain and nobody knows your name. You analyze data from the European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasts, the GFS model, and custom mesoscale simulations. You've spent 15 years calibrating for the Himalayan microclimate. You predict wind speeds at 8,849 meters within a margin of 5 kilometers per hour. You track the jet stream, which normally sits directly on the summit at 200 kilometers per hour. When the jet stream lifts north for a day or two, the wind drops below 30 kilometers per hour, and humans can survive up there. These windows happen maybe 4 or 5 times per season, sometimes only twice. You send a text to the expedition leaders. May 21st to 22nd, window opens 2100 local. Winds below 25 at summit. Deterioration begins May 23:0600. That text moves 300 people up a mountain. If you're right, people summit and come home. If you're wrong, people die in a whiteout at 8,500 meters with no way down. In 1996, the forecasters missed a storm. 8 people died in one night. You carry that history every time you hit send. You charge $5,000 to $10,000 per expedition. You are worth every cent. You are the reason the death rate dropped from 1 in 4 in the 1990s to 1 in 100 today. Nobody interviews you. Nobody puts your face in the documentary. You sit in a basement and save lives with math. Level 8, the client. You're 50. You paid $75,000. Maybe $130,000 if you went with a premium operator. You trained for 18 months. You climbed Kilimanjaro, Elbrus, maybe Cho Oyu as a warm-up. You spent $8,000 on gear, down suit, summit boots, crampons, ice axe, goggles, oxygen mask. You told everyone at work. You told everyone at dinner parties. You have a fundraiser tied to your climb. Your family thinks you're brave. Your guide thinks you're a liability. Summit night. You leave Camp 4 at 9 p.m. It's minus 35 before wind chill. You can see headlamps stretching up the mountain in a single line like a string of Christmas lights going nowhere good. 200 other people picked the same weather window. You're moving at 100 meters per hour. Every step takes 3 breaths. Your oxygen mask is fogging your goggles. Your fingers stopped feeling an hour ago. Your toes stopped feeling 2 hours before that. At the Hillary step, you wait in line for 90 minutes. You're standing at 8,790 meters. Clipped to a rope, waiting like you're at the post office. People are pushing past. Someone's oxygen runs out ahead of you. A Sherpa appears from somewhere and hands them a spare bottle without saying a word. You don't know where that bottle came from. You don't ask. At 5:47 a.m., you stand on the summit. The sky is purple turning to gold. You can see the curvature of the earth. You cry. You take a photo. You spend 8 minutes up there because your guide says that's all you get. The summit is the size of a dining room table. There are 15 people on it at the same time. The descent is where most people die. You know this intellectually. You don't understand it physically until your legs stop responding and your vision narrows and your guide grabs you by the harness and says, "Walk." You walk. You don't feel your feet. You pass a body sitting upright against a rock at 8,600 meters, wearing a red jacket. You make eye contact with the goggles even though there is nothing behind them. Nobody tells you the body's name. You make it back to Camp 4 and collapse in your tent. You survived. You go home. You frame the photo. You put it on LinkedIn. You never mention the Sherpa who carried your pack the last 400 meters because your legs gave out. You never talk about the body in the red jacket. You say you climbed Everest. That's technically true. Level 9. The body. You didn't make it. You don't know exactly when it happened. You remember sitting down. You remember thinking you would rest for just a minute. Your legs had stopped working properly somewhere above the balcony, and the wind was pushing against you like it had a personal opinion about whether you should keep going. Your guide was ahead of you, or behind you. You couldn't tell anymore. The oxygen mask felt like it was suffocating you instead of saving you, so you pulled it off. That was the mistake. Or maybe the mistake was leaving Camp 4. Or maybe the mistake was booking the trip. You don't think about that now. You don't think about anything now. The cold took your fingers first, then your thoughts, then everything between your thoughts. The spaces got longer, your vision narrowed to a tunnel, and then the tunnel closed. You sat down on a rock at 8,600 meters. You leaned slightly to the left. Your arms settled in your lap. Your head dropped forward. You looked like you were sleeping. You were not sleeping. That was 7 years ago. You're still here. The wind stripped the color from your jacket, but you can still tell it was red. Your goggles are still on your face. One of your gloves blew off in the first winter and your hand is exposed, frozen in a position that looks like you were reaching for something. You weren't. Your muscles just contracted as the cold set in. That's what happens to tissue at -40. Climbers pass you every season, hundreds of them. Some of them pause. Some of them touch your shoulder. One of them took a selfie with you. Most of them look away and keep moving because looking at you too long means thinking about the fact that the only difference between you and them is luck and timing, and maybe one extra bottle of oxygen. Nobody moves you because recovering a body from this altitude costs $70,000 and requires a team of 8 Sherpas risking their own lives to carry 80 kilograms of frozen dead weight down a slope where one stumble kills everyone on the rope. So you stay. You become a landmark. Turn left at the body in the red jacket. That's what they say now on the radio. That's your function. You had a name. You had a family that waited at base camp for a radio call that came in wrong. You had a job and a house and a reason for being here that felt important enough to die for. Nobody uses your name anymore. You are a waypoint. You're a direction. You're a reason to keep moving. Level 10. The mountain. It was here 60 million years before any of them arrived. It will be here 60 million years after the last tent is packed up, and the last permit is filed, and the last helicopter lifts off the glacier. It has 310 bodies on its slopes. Some of them are visible, some of them are buried under decades of snow. Some of them are wearing gear from the 1920s. It has 12,000 kilograms of human waste at base camp. It has abandoned oxygen bottles and shredded tents and frayed rope frozen into the ice at every camp. It has flags and photographs and letters that people left at the summit that the wind shredded within hours. It doesn't keep score. It doesn't care who summits. It doesn't distinguish between the porter who earned $10 a day and the client who paid $75,000. It doesn't care about the Instagram post or the charity fundraiser or the LinkedIn update or the documentary or the book deal. The Sherpas call it Chomolungma, goddess mother of the world. The goddess doesn't notice any of them. She's busy holding up the sky.